Hello everybody, it's Murray here and welcome back to my channel, STEWART Paintings. On today's acrylic painting tutorial, we're going to paint this gorgeous night sky scene. We're going to teach you how to easily paint stars. I'm going to teach you how to do this nebula and this gorgeous lighthouse in this great night sky scene. So let's get into it. Now you don't need many colours in this tutorial, it's just blue, black, green, yellow, white and purple. To make Prussian blue, all it is blue and a little bit of black. And to make phthalo turquoise, all it is blue, some green and a little bit of yellow. Now here we have a 30 by 21 centimetre canvas, and all I've done is I've used chalk to draw a house, a lighthouse, some forest bits here and a nebula. And the reason I've painted it burnt sienna and I've used chalk is just so I can see where I need more paint. By painting a bright brown tone, I can see when I'm using lighter colours where I need to add more layers. Now the great thing about chalk is, as previously stated, you can draw over it and paint over it. So all we're going to do is we're going to take a dark tone. Now this could be black, this could be blue, or this could be purple, whatever you find easiest. And all we're going to do is we're going to paint over that chalk, and we're just going to draw an outline of where we want our house and our lighthouse to be. So as I say, like, the great thing about chalk is it doesn't leave any dirty marks. So unlike a lead pencil, which might smudge and leave quite a dirty mark when we're using light colours, the great thing about chalk is you can just lick your fingers and just wipe it off. So why are we painting this blue outline? Well, simply for the fact we're going to use a bright yellow tone in a minute, and the great thing about this dark tone is going to show up. So if we when we're blocking it in and the light tone goes over the top, we can still see where our outline is. So we've still got a basis to see where we want things to be. Anyone who watched my dolphin tutorial the other day, we did a very similar thing where we painted in the dolphins first and then we blocked in all the sky, and it's just so you've got a guideline of where you want things to be and you don't miss where you have things. It's just a nice clear outline. So look, we've just got this, we've got the shadow on one side and we've got this lighthouse and we've got this nice little house. Think of a nice country house on a cliff top that's overlooking a nice sea or on a cliff. So what I want you to do is I want you to dry the painting, because we're going to use a very light tone and we don't want to mix that in with that blue. So all we've got is yellow and white, a Naples yellow. And all we're going to do is we're just going to block in. And look, if we go over our lighthouse or we just go over our outline, you can see now it shines through. So at least we know when we touch it up later where it's going to be. So just mix some yellow and white till you get this lovely sort of creamy white sort of colour, this sort of cheese colour. And then just mix the two together and just block in your painting. Again, don't worry if it's rough, and don't worry, we're going to do second layers. Now this is phthalo turquoise. You can either buy it pre-mixed or you can mix it yourself, which is just green, blue and a little bit of yellow, and it creates this gorgeous tone, this gorgeous turquoise tone. If you imagine the colour of tropical water, that sort of beautiful turquoise colour, and all we're doing, we're just mixing it into that yellow and we're just mixing that tone. And what we're going to try to do is create the illusion of how it gets darker as it gets away. So we're just going to add some cobalt blue. Now you can use ultramarine blue or phthalo blue, it doesn't matter. So some bright blue. All we want to do is create the effect of it getting darker as it gets away from the light source. So we want to create this gorgeous night sky effect. So all I'm doing, look, I'm just putting some bright blue, but the whole idea is to get darker as we go away from the light source. So we want the corners of our paintings to be nice and dark. So we're going to take some Prussian blue, which is just blue and black mixed together, and we're just going to darken our corners. So what that's going to do, hopefully, is kind of frame the painting. Look, so we've already got this gorgeous sort of transition where it's getting darker as it gets towards the edge of the painting. Okay, so when you're happy with it, it should be dry. The good thing about acrylics, they dry very quickly, and you can apply a second layer. So again, look, this is the reason I used the burnt sienna. So look, you can see the difference between 2 layers of paint and 1 layer of paint. So by just mixing some phthalo turquoise, so all it was green, a little bit of blue and a little bit of yellow, we get this gorgeous colour. And you can see, look how bright and vibrant that is compared to the layer below it. So by just going over the top and applying a second layer to your work, just taking your time. I know a lot of people are watching these time-lapse videos on things like Instagram and YouTube, and they're not showing the artist necessarily work on it. They just sort of jump into the next scene, and you're missing how they're doing it. So I'm just trying to show you how you get such vibrant tones and how you get nice blending. And all it is just basically using hardly any water and just going over the top with a big dry brush and just blending the two together. So imagine you've got a large colouring in brush or a large crayon, and all you're doing is sort of shading with this dry brush. Look, you're just sort of shading over the top of it, and that's how you're blending the tones together, and that creates the illusion of these sort of transitions. Now all I'm doing, I'm just trying to darken up the corners, just like we darken up the corners at the top, because we want our viewers, with all the compositions like I'm trying to teach you, we want the viewer's eyes to be right down the middle. So all I'm doing, I'm just getting darker, I'm just adding some blue to that cobalt blue, to that phthalo turquoise. So I'm just adding a little bit of blue to that mix just to get it darker. So look, it's getting darker as it goes up. And as I say, look, if you have to do a few layers, you have to do a few bits of transition, don't worry. You can always try your work and try to mix it together. So look, just adding some cobalt blue, any blue, just a bright blue. So look how much brighter that looks with a second layer of paint. It looks so much more brighter, it really, really does. So that's the thing with acrylics, you just got to be patient. It's all about learning, and as I said to you in previous videos, you can always dry your work and just go over the top, and if you make a mistake and it's dry, you can just wipe it off with a baby wipe. So don't worry, you can always just paint over it. It's really, really easy. They dry so quick. A lot of people have been asking me how to keep their work a little bit wet. You can buy things like a spray bottle, things that you would spray your plants with, just with a bit of water, and you can give your palette a little spray or give your canvas a little spray. So all I'm using there is Prussian blue at the top, just to give it that very dark corner effect. Now I'm going to take some purple, mix that with a lot of white to create a very light tone, and some of that Naples yellow, which was just yellow and white. And we're going to create the illusion of a nebula. So all I'm doing, I'm just kind of letting the paint run off my brush, and I'm just kind of going up into that top right corner. And I'm just sort of whispering about, and I'm just using my finger just to sort of blend it into the dry canvas, just so it's not as harsh. And I'm just going over it with a little bit of the same tone just to make it look more prominent, make it look more brighter. And you can just get a little bit of Naples yellow, which again is just yellow and white, and just go over areas that you want to touch up. Just kind of smooth it in just so it doesn't look too harsh on the eyes. So again, just keep going over the top, just making it more bright in places. Where you want to add highlights, just add a little bit of that yellow and white. Just make it look just a bit more brighter. So there we go. Now we're going to add some of that phthalo turquoise, and we're just going to mix some yellow into it so we get a really light version, and just a tiny bit of blue into it. And we're just going to do the same. We're just going to add on one side just sort of a shadow colour, which is going to be this bright sort of phthalo turquoise. So we're going to do that up on the left hand side, and just round up here on the right. And again, just leave gaps, just leave little bits of gaps. Just mix some yellow into it. And the reason we're leaving the gaps is because we're trying to create texture, like a lot of the other videos we've been doing. We're just trying to create texture to make the underpainting shine through. And there can be all the sort of wisps in the air, all the sort of highlights when the air picks up all these sort of colours. worry if you make a mistake, just use your fingers or just use a baby wipe. We're just going around, we're just trying to create highlights, create this illusion of this starry night. And all we're going to do is take some blue, a tiny bit of purple, and we're just going to do the same. We're just going to create sort of the glimmer in the sky where the light sort of hits the mist, and sort of creates this gorgeous sort of I don't know how to explain it, sort of glints in the sky that look gorgeous. Oops, a bit too much there. Not to worry, just blend it in. There we go. Just darken up that corner. Just trying to make those transitions look a bit more tidy. Just blend the tones into one another. Take your time. Don't worry. Now what I'm going to do is take some of that bright yellow, and I'm just going to really highlight areas just around my lighthouse, because I want this to be the base, and I want that to be really, really bright. So when we add the dark lighthouse, it's going to really, really shine against that bright yellow background. So just lighten up areas. Just using brighter tones, nothing to it, really easy peasy. And if you add a little bit of blue at the top, just because that's obviously getting darker, this is getting away from the light, so it's just fading out into that top right corner. Now when you are happy with it, and you've done all the highlights and every bit you're happy with it, please dry it, because I'm going to show you the super easy way to paint stars. So we're going to get a large flat brush, and we're going to dip it in some water to make the head nice and wet, and we're going to take some white and we're going to make that really watery. So look, a really watery solution, so it's easy to flick. And all we're going to do, look, we're going to flick the top of our brush, and we're going to stand back a little bit, and that's going to create the illusion of stars. So look at that, I'm just using the top of my finger. It's a bit messy, my finger's going bright white, but it's creating the illusion of stars. Just keep flicking it, make sure it's nice and watery. And as I say, if you're painting this dry, if you made a mistake, you can always use a baby wipe to wipe it up. Now you can use a really thin-headed brush and just make some real prominent stars just by using some bright white. So all I'm doing here, I'm just putting in some big stars. You could even do the constellations if you want. You could do a little constellation. You could even think what constellation you are and just put that in there. So I'm just creating shapes just to create nice prominent stars. Just a few in our little nebula bit here. So all I'm doing is using a really fine-headed, almost like pin-headed brush, just to create little stars. Just make them look a little bit more brighter. Just pure white, that's all it is. So look, that looks really good, and that took all of 5 seconds. Now all I've done is, this is the reason I use chalk, is just because look, you can just rub it out, so I can just draw all over my painting. Now a lot of people struggle with straight lines when they're painting, so you can use either a very straight edge, or you could do this trick, which is really, really super easy. All you do is take some painting tape, and because it's nice and straight, you just put it up against what you're going to draw, and you put the other side against, and because it's nice and flat and straight, you can just fill in the middle with your paint and you'll get nice straight lines. So look at all these tips I'm giving you for free, all these amazing tips. So all I'm doing is I'm giving you just easy ways, easy solutions how to do things. So I'm going to take some Prussian blue, which was just blue and black, and we're just going to fill in what this is going to be the illusion of trees that are sort of going off into the background. So we're just blocking that in. So again, don't worry, we just want to create shapes, create the illusion of texture. And all we're going to do, look, we're just going to fill in with Prussian blue, and then we're going to take some of that phthalo turquoise, which was the sky sort of nice colour, and we're going to blend that into the phthalo blue. And then last but not least, we're going to add with the same brush some of the Naples yellow. So don't worry if you get this smeared sort of greeny, sort of manky looking colour. It's deliberately trying to get a nice transition between the really dark Prussian blue into the phthalo turquoise and then into that yellow. So look, try to do the same all the way up. So have phthalo blue going into that turquoise, and then last but not least, just add some yellow on the left hand side. And all I'm doing is I'm using some Prussian blue just to highlight or darken up areas that are going to be where the barrier is, kind of the metal walkway on the lighthouse. And look, we just take off our tape and look, perfect straight lines. Look at that. Well, hey, easy peasy. And look, you can just lick your finger, and where there's some chalk, you just rub it out. So easy peasy. So we're just going to take some white, and we're going to add a little bit of purple and a little bit of blue to that mix. And we're going to just create this really light blue, and we're just going to fill in where the light of the lighthouse is going to be. So right at the top of the lighthouse, it's going to have a really bright light, and that is going to be an off-white. So it's blue, white, and a dab of purple. And then we're just going to take some of that same colour, so just blue, white, tiny bit of purple. We're just going to darken it up just around the edge. That could be kind of the light shining onto that edge. And where we've got these really bright marks in the chalk, that's going to be kind of the wooden skirting on this house. So I'm just using the exact same colour. So what is white, blue, and a tiny bit of purple, and that's going to be a very shadowy colour. So if you imagine sort of white timber, well, because it's in the dark, it's far away, and this is a starry night, it's sort of the edges that are catching that light, and that's going to create this lovely sort of bright tone. And it just gives our house a little bit more definition. So I keep saying to you in all the videos, just use blue and purple to cool things, and use things like yellows, oranges and reds to warm things up. So if you want something in the shade, you just want to cool it down by just using things like light blues and light purples. So all we're doing is just creating the illusion of the edges. And you can just get some Prussian blue, which is just blue and black, and just create really defining edges, just things like on the tree line, things like that, just to make them stand out a little bit more. Things like the on the lighthouse, they have like a metal walkway that you sort of walk all the way around. It's kind of like a circular thing that you go all the way up to the top. And just block in just areas. So get some of that Prussian blue and just kind of block in all the sort of trees. Don't worry if it's messy, as I say. It's more to teach you the colours and to teach you sort of compositions. So right on the top, we're just going to kind of put like a hat on the top. So that's the little hat of the lighthouse. This little antenna thing they have. So I'm just going to block in kind of the garage sort of area outside the house. Just block in the roofs. Let's say, don't worry if it's messy. You can always neaten up your work. You can, like as I say, you can use the tape trick or use a ruler or anything if you're worried about straight lines. We're just obviously doing this painting very, very quickly, but you can take your time and do it very, very precise with things like a ruler. So just go around things like the windows. Don't worry so much, as I say, if it's not straight. Just try to cover up as much burnt sienna. We just want to sort of block in the house now. So all we're doing, blue and black, just try to block it in. And don't worry if you paint over areas, you can always just retouch it up at the end. So just fill that in, that could be a bush at the back. So as I say, don't worry if it's a bit wonky or a bit messy. Just use your fingers to try and get it as much covered. Now what we're going to do is take that same colour that we did the lighthouse, we're just going to fill in the windows. So all it is blue, white and a tiny bit of purple. And we're just going to fill in just sort of squares, just where sort of windows would be in this house. Okay, so we've got the chimney and everything. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to take some of that phthalo turquoise and mix that into the mix. So I've got phthalo turquoise, white, a bit of blue and a bit of purple. And I'm just going to darken up areas. And again, it's just where the shade, these areas are getting the most shade on those sort of wooden beams. So just creating like areas. And you can even add some Prussian blue to that mix. I think I was doing a window here, so I'm just putting in a window, just blocking that area. Because obviously that's the back of the house, that's going to be at its darkest. So it's just the back, sort of areas that aren't getting much light. And look, you can always just add a little bit of yellow and just lighten it up. And there's sort of the areas that the light from the sky is sort of hitting the top of that roof and hitting the chimney. So that's just why it's got that sort of colour, because that sort of colour is in the night sky above it and it's shining down onto it. So it's just using tones just to suggest colours and just to suggest highlights. That's all it is. Now we're going to take some black and we're just going to block in the very bottom corners of our work. We're going to try to make that look the darkest. And so the blue that is shining on top of it, you want to leave an area. And what that does is that looks like the light is hitting that area and that is fading off into the distance. So again, just like we did in the previous video, it's to give it depth just so it looks like it's fading off into the distance. So by just using black, we just want to darken up this corner because that's where we're going to sign it. And don't be afraid just to sort of darken areas up. Because as I say, this is going to get the least amount of light. So this is going to be at its darkest. So I'm just using a really thin brush and I'm just trying to make areas a little bit more straighter. As I say, this is just a very quick tutorial, but you can use a ruler. You can, if you struggle with straight lines, do that tape trick and just take your time and make everything absolutely perfect if you want to. There's no rules, it's up to you, it's your work. You can work on it as long as you like. So I'm just trying to darken up this far corner because obviously this is the back of the house which isn't getting much light, so I might actually just colour all this area in, to tell you the truth, and I can always reapply it in a minute. So I'm just getting some of that Prussian blue and I'm just darkening this area up because obviously it's not going to get as much of that sort of starry night light. So just think on your work, which areas is the light hitting? Think of which parts is the light going to be shining on. As I say, just cooling areas up or lighting areas up by warming them up makes a big difference. You don't have to do super detail in your work to create the illusion of really realistic work. It's more in the tones. And as I say, you can work on your detail. As you get better at drawing and better at artwork, it's really helpful. But if you nail the tones early on, you can really get good because you can combine the tones and the detail, and then that's when your work will really take off. So look, all I'm doing is just darkening that area out, just using black. So what I'm doing now is I'm taking some bright white and I'm just going to create the illusion of that lighthouse being super bright. So just use some titanium white and I'm just going to fill in the windows. I want to leave a little bit of the under colour because that light bluey purple from around it creates sort of a shimmer. It kind of creates the illusion of the light sort of refracting as it shines out. So try to leave a little bit shining underneath. And they're just going to be the brightest areas, and all I'm doing, I'm just touching it up with that Naples yellow. I'm just touching up an area that I missed. And I'm just taking some of the blue, white and purple and I'm just putting in back some detail, sort of the edge of that house, just sort of the edge of the garage bit. And the great thing is, look, you can just create the illusion of things like doors or walls. Even look, you can create the illusion of grass going up into the house, or snow even, depends what time of year it is. And just having a look, just by using a really light colour and just sort of smearing it into that black, just gives the impression of the house on the hill. So there you go. Really easy. You can just touch up your work, you can just add the last bit of detail, just using a very fine brush. I'm just using a little bit of that same light blue there just around the light, just to make it look like it's refracting onto that sort of metal girder. And the same with some Prussian blue, you can just go around that area. But I think it's pretty much done. Looks pretty damn good. Super easy as well. So there we go. If we take a step back, look how pretty that looks. We've got this great nebula, we've got this lovely little house, we've got the lighthouse, and the stars are super easy to paint now. So now you see how to do it. You can all do it at home. You can even add some more stars. You can create some little crosses like I've done here just to make them look a bit brighter. So I hope you've liked this night sky acrylic painting tutorial. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and please check out the tutorials that are coming on the screen now. So take care everyone, bye.